in the US, spanking is not being practiced, but in Africa, it is not like that. Spanking is practiced in Africa. Now, the difference is this. Now, when you don't spank your children, it might work for you. Africa has lesser prison for children than the US. So if you compare the US to Africa, the entire US, one country to Africa, about 54 countries, has lower prison numbers than the US. So if you look at it, the more you withhold the rod, the more you withhold enough discipline on your children, the more you continue to build prisons for them. When they misbehave, they will have another home, which is the prison to house them. But if you train the way Africans train children, you will see a decrease in children being housed in juvenile prisons. Thank you.
Good day, you are welcome to another episode of Learning Together. My name is Tosen, and today we look at Understanding the Old Testament Laws, Part 4. And this is a reaction to a clip I saw on Atheist Experience, a channel on YouTube. And I've done the Part 1, the Part 2, the Part 3 was a reaction. And this is also the Part 4, which is also a reaction to a clip in the video. So I'm going to play the clip and I'm going to speak about it. Let's watch the clip.
Well, I don't have the Bible in front of me. Like I said, I'm not a Bible scholar or anything like that, so I don't know everything that's in the Bible, and I can't, obviously, I don't want to spend the time checking while I'm talking to you, but I would like to talk about punishment in general. It doesn't really have to do with the Mosaic Law, but you were talking about punishment, and is it just or moral, I think is what your question was. And I would say God is our Father, okay? And He loves us so much that He wants to help us to learn and progress to become more like Him.
And is beating children with a rod a good way to do that?
I don't know. But this is what I would.
Well, 1 Samuel 7:14 says, and I quote, "I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he commands iniquity, or when he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of men and the strokes of the sons of men." Seems to me that beating your child is absolutely okay with God.
It's not about specific examples that are mentioned in the scriptures, but it's about what would you do if you had a naughty child that did not make wise choices, but you love and wanted them. You love them. You want them to make better choices. You want them to be smarter without taking away their free agency. Then what?
And there are better ways than beating the crap out of them or beating them at all to do that. You can understand where they're coming from. You can send them to their room if you have to. But beating a child is not a good thing. It is not a loving thing. If somebody hits you, they hate you. Unless it's combat sports, which is a whole different thing. But as a general rule, if somebody hits you, they hate you.
Now I want to title this, Call It Discipline, Not Punishment. Now what is discipline? Discipline is a controlled behavior, either self-controlled or an enforced compliance or control. It's also a systematic method of obtaining obedience, a state of order based on submission to authority. Now, what is punishment? Punishment is the act or process of punishing, imposing, or applying a sanction, typically by an authority or a person in authority. For example, a parent or a teacher, especially when disappointed or dissatisfied with the behavior or actions of a child, student, or someone else being looked after. Now, a supportive definition is any harsh treatment or experience, rough handling. This is the definition many people lean towards when we're speaking of punishment. It is any harsh treatment or experience. So it's like a person is deliberately inflicting a harsh treatment on someone else because they can. That is what many people perceive as punishment. Even though punishment is intended and is meant to discipline, most of the time we don't see it that way. We see it as a harsh treatment. The text we'll be focusing on is Proverbs 22, verse 6, and also verse 15. So what does Proverbs 22, verse 6 says? It's a popular passage in the book of Proverbs. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Verse 15 says, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. Now, when we say train up a child in the way he should go, why does it refer to a child? Train up a child in the way he should go. It refers to a child because it is difficult to train an adult. Even if the adult is willing to learn, it is so difficult to train an adult. What does training a child, what does it mean? When we say training a child, what does it mean? Training a child refers to the process of guiding, teaching, and nurturing a child to develop their skills, values, and behaviors. It involves setting boundaries, modeling good behaviors, and providing opportunities for learning and growth. In practical terms, training a child might include teaching life skills, for example, teaching them how to share, teaching them hygiene, and so on and so forth. Also, setting rules and consequences. Also, encouraging positive behaviors, and also modeling good values and morals. Now, there's a general rule to training children. So if you have a child, you take decisions for your child. Most especially children below 12 years old, you help them take decisions. Why? Because they can't take decisions by themselves. And also, for teenagers, you take decisions alongside a teenager. You don't just take decisions for a teenager. You have to take your decisions alongside them, which means you have to talk to them, you have to think about it together so that you don't do something they will not like. So that's how you help a teenager to take a decision. But for adults, you can't help an adult to take a decision. The best you can do is to advise an adult. So that's what you do for an adult. Now, things you tell children when they are young is very, very important. When children are young, the things you say to them, they are very important. For instance, if you lie to them, they learn how to lie, and those lies stays with them forever. Also, if you tell them the truth also stays with them forever. Again, what you tell your children is very important. When you are honest with them, when they are young, they respect you for it. When they grow old, they will also be honest. It is easier to teach children because they believe you without a reason. They don't second guess things. They trust unconditionally. So this also applies when you are trying to discipline them or correct them. Offenses vary depending on the offense. If you don't control the offense with the same level of discipline, you lose that child because he or she wouldn't know the gravity of the offense based on the weak disciplinary approach. They hide the bad characters from parents or guardians next time they want to behave in such a manner. I don't recommend sending children to their rooms as a disciplinary approach whatsoever. That's being too soft on them. If you really want your children to stop a certain behavior or not repeat the same behavior in the future, then you'll have to step up your disciplinary approach. This is a research I did while I was preparing for this. Which country has the highest number of juvenile prison per population? The results came back and it was the United States has the highest juvenile incarceration rate, frequently locking up youths at a rate more than twice the global average. thousands of children are held in juvenile detention facilities, with the US having over 60,000 children in such facilities in 2011 and over 95,000 in adult jails, which means there are over 95,000 children in adult prison, whereas there are 60,000 children in juvenile facilities. Now, as of current reports, there are over 1,200 specialized juvenile residential facilities in the United States, including detention centers, reception diagnostic centers, and long-term secure training schools. Other estimates identify approximately 80 specific youth prisons, while the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention reported 1,277 juvenile facilities in 2022. Now, is spanking effective on children? Based on a large body of research spanning decades and multiple cultures, spanking is not considered an effective long-term training tool for children. While it may stop a behavior in the immediate moment due to fear, it does not teach children why a behavior is wrong or what to do instead. And I agree with that. I agree with that because spanking a child is just to correct their wrong behaviors. It's not to train them. When a child does something wrong, you spank them to correct them, to bring them back on the right path, to make them not do whatever wrong they've done. You use spanking to correct them so that they don't do it anymore, but it does not necessarily teach them the right thing to do. That is why Proverbs 22 verse 6 says you should train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So that verse says nothing or said nothing about spanking a child. This verse that spoke about spanking a child gave a reason why you should spank if necessary for the child to be spanked. And it's verse 15, which says, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. So when a child acts in a foolish way, what you do, you spank that foolishness out of him with the rod. Now, I don't recommend spanking children. At the same time, if you don't match up their wrong behaviors to the discipline, if the discipline does not correspond to the wrongs they've done, you will see that they will continue to get worse by the day. So you can't do one without the other. Otherwise, you won't get the desired result. So the more you train your children, the same time when they do something wrong or something foolish, you have to correct them appropriately. So as Mr. Jim said, he said, the Bible is saying that you beat the crap out of your children. The Bible never said you should beat the crap out of your children. But if it is necessary for you to spank them, depending on their offense, depending on what they've done, withholding a rod or not spanking them when it is necessary, you might not be able to manage the results when the time comes. Because the more you train a child, the more you discipline a child, the more they become wiser and the more they learn. Thank you.
In the US, spanking is not being practiced, but in Africa, it is not like that. Spanking is practiced in Africa. Now, the difference is this. Now, when you don't spank your children, it might work for you. Africa has lesser prison for children than the US. So if you compare the US to Africa, the entire US, one country to Africa, about 54 countries, has lower prison numbers than the US. So if you look at it, the more you withhold the rod, the more you withhold enough discipline on your children, the more you continue to build prisons for them. When they misbehave, they will have another home, which is the prison to house them. But if you train the way Africans train children, But you will see a decrease in children being housed in juvenile prisons. Thank you.